two things are very critical for this government, from my own perspective: how they manage the security situation and the Tax Reform Act implementation. If they get those two right, definitely to be a big boost for the government and of course the ruling party. But if they don't get those two right, it could be a big challenge, you know. But we hope that they get those right.
Hello and welcome to 2026. Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank God for giving us a new year. I hope you are also excited. And in this special edition, I will be discussing with my colleague and also fellow anchor on WebTV. Is Mr. Ottoabasi Abasiekong. Great to have you.
Great to have you, Gabriel. And of course, we're happy to make it 2026. What a year we're looking forward to.
Right. And my name is Gabriel Jude. So we'll be looking at key issues on political economy. We have business, the market trends that has happened in 2025 and what to expect for this year, 2026. And so I also presume that this year, 2026, will be much more better than 2025. You know, that we have a lot of things been going on in 2025, you know, household, you know, drama here and there. And I think that many people have not recovered from the quagmire of 2025.
Yeah, 2025 has been a very interesting year. And as we're going to have this conversation, we're going to look at the things that really impacted 2025 and what we're going to look at in 2026, which is very pivotal. You know that this year is a pre-election year.
Yeah. Let's begin with the reforms, you know. Yeah. So 2025 has been described as a year of reforms. So we've seen reforms from, tax and fiscal space. Yeah. We've seen capital market, we've seen insurance, and even the pension industry. You know, so I know that in a couple of times we've seen issues with this reform policy that has affected a lot of households. We have inflation, you know, we have a lot of things. I mean, it's a backlog.
So when we say it's a year of reforms, we saw significant reforms in the, like you said, the fiscal and monetary policy side. Well, let me start with the monetary. We saw the Central Bank of Nigeria strengthening the reforms for the foreign exchange markets. Remember that 2024 at the bankers' annual dinner, where the central bank governor addresses the banking industry leaders and, of course, financial services industry experts. He said that they're going to roll out the electronic FX management system. And so that's what happened in 2025. And that brought more stability to the markets. And that's where we could see accretion in the foreign reserves to the range now of $43 to $44 billion. We've seen accretion in the net reserves, which was at $2 or $3 billion before. Now it's about $29 billion. So that shows stability in the markets, predictability. And that was why, Gabriel, this last year, 2025 bankers dinner, the central bank governor, Mr. Olaimi Cardoso, was so relaxed, enjoying himself, laughing and telling some jokes while he was speaking about what they're going to be prioritizing for this year. So that was the impact of the reforms.
Looking out for recapitalization and all of that.
And then recapitalization in the banking industry, of course, that came out since 2023. So that's been on 2024 to 2026. This year already is going to be the year that will wrap up first quarter, the recapitalization. So that's been on. The last count, 16 banks have made the recapitalization. So we're expecting other banks to meet up with that. And then speaking about the tax.
Yeah, that one of
it's going to be consequential because I know that you anchor the WebTV Focus program, so that will be something you'll be discussing with the impact on households.
Yeah.
The Nigerian Tax Reform Act, of course, I would describe as one of the most consequential reforms we've had in our history since independence. Tax policy, looking at over 60 taxes that impacted Nigerians, reducing it to a sizable number that can be predictable, encourage investments, and even achieve global competitiveness for our country. But of course, the Nigeria Tax Reform Act was signed into law in 2025. There were some issues that came up. The gazetted copy. I know you were also there when we had this conversation with Mr. Wedele, chairman of the Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. The gazetted copy, the House of Reps, one of the House of Reps members highlighted that some provisions in the gazetted copy were not in the harmonized version signed by the National Assembly. So that brought a lot of debate to the Tax Act. But the federal government said from today they're going to implement the Tax Act, while the National Assembly has said they've regazetted what the harmonized version is. So the most important thing, like I said in one of my sessions on the economy and politics conversation, the most important thing Nigerians will require from this tax act, which is consequential, is transparency and accountability from the government. Simplified messaging from the tax reform committee. There's also a tax implementation committee chaired by Mr. Joseph Tegbe. Then there is the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which will now become the Nigeria Revenue Service. And of course, the Ministry of Finance. So that synergy in communication is very important. Also, tax administration, because people are concerned about what was alleged as alterations. How would they administer this tax? Even at the subnational level, we have the Joint Revenue Board, because this tax act is a combination of 4 bills: the Nigeria Tax Reform Bill, the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service that takes over FIRS, and of course the Joint Revenue Board. So the subnational level of tax administration is very important in implementation to encourage companies, to encourage households and citizens. How it's implemented is very important. So that's very important.
I think one of the key issues we need to look at, especially the government, and I know that Taiwo Oyedele has cleared some wave around misinformation and all of that. But I think more
transparency, accountability, and then this harmonization between the executive and legislature is very important, because that's how you build trust. Tax, if you remember, Taiwo Oyedele always talks about the fact that tax is like a social contract. It's between citizens and government. So if there's a breach of trust, how then do people engage and feel confident about it? So that's the most important thing for this administration this year, that the way the tax act implementation is done in a way that carries all citizens and all stakeholders along, so that there's no loophole or challenge.
One of the things that we'll be looking at more pragmatically in my session is going to be for the awareness. A lot of people don't even understand.
The awareness is important.
I know that the committee are putting up
but we need more tax education awareness,
exactly,
which the chairman has even acknowledged.
Campaign is very important. 2025 also, we have Nigeria's economy data management. Management, we have rebasing. We've seen CPI rebasing, we have seen GDP, we've seen but one interesting thing for 2025 was that even with the rebasing, that we would have ought to see things have changed. But we see that the figures of especially with inflation figures, it doesn't correspond with what the reality of the market, and so it was quite some battle there with households. So people began to, at some point, we began to see, are these data coming from outside Nigeria or so? But what really is?
No, globally, economic data is very important. It shows how an economy is performing. It shows the level of impact policies are having on the economy. So for the rebasing, of course, the National Bureau of Statistics had given that information that they were going to rebase. ProShare and other stakeholders were at that conversation. And finally, they brought it out around the first quarter of 2025. And what you could see was the rebasing was, of course, you do it every 10 years. It's done every 10 years. So it was due. And then this was done around the base year 2024. So remember, Gabriel, we used to talk about the inflation issue. As at the time of the rebasing, headline inflation was 34.48%.
Yes.
December before January. But when the rebasing was done, the January inflation headline showed that it was 24.48%. And from that rebasing, around the new realities and baskets of economic activities, we have seen inflation decelerate currently today to 14.45%. So that rebasing was long overdue, and it happened. People will debate the data, but of course we have to also, if we debate the data, know that there is a statutory body, the National Bureau of Statistics, that is responsible for that. So the realities are, how is it impacting the households? How is it impacting the price of food stuffs and all that? We look at food inflation and all that. So that's around the basic. That's why we said that this year was a year, 2025 was a year of rebasing. Same with the gross domestic product, the GDP. We now saw that from the rebasing of our GDP, is supposed to be done also every 10 years, that's a decade, the base year around 2019 and all that, we saw that our economy is a $243 billion economy, the fourth largest in Africa. We used to be the largest in Africa. So there's a lot of work to do because, we've been talking about the 1 trillion GDP.
Yeah.
So that's very critical. And as at that time, our growth level also was around 3.13% first quarter of 2025. Right. But today now, our growth level is 3.93%, the impact of the rebasing. So again, like you rightly said, this data is important, but you must relate with the citizens and the impact, reality. And not just in Nigeria, that globally, we've seen some challenging economic data. For example, in the US last year, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's like an MBS here, they do their data on the economy and all that. At the point, President Trump was like, he doesn't understand all the data. He had to change even the Office of National Statistics in UK too had to talk about the limitations they have in extending their survey. So globally, and just like Nigeria, data integrity on the economy is very important. So everything has to be strengthened, capacity and ability to cover those baskets.
I think that we'll do better this time, 2026.
Yes, it's something that we have to keep an eye on. ProShare always keeps an eye on economic data and analysis. We question, we make references, we make insightful analysis.
We're looking forward for a productive economy. But then let's look at jigging the Nigerian security architecture.
Wow.
Some key regulatory agencies talk about a lot of, we have a lot of issues. Insecurity, security, attacks here and there. It's a lot. I know that personally on WebTV Focus, we had a session I think we have two
or three people.
On it. So it's really a key because all what we're saying here, without security, we won't get there.
Definitely. So, and if I'm to take from what your guest even said, and I dive back to 2009, I attended the Channels Forum. Channels TV used to host a forum. It was an annual forum where they discuss issues in the country. So 2009, Channels hosted a forum on security. The panelists there, that's the first time I met Dr. Muda Yusuf. He was a panelist. Tuyosi Akwele was the youngest. She's an entrepreneur, young lady doing great things. Pastor Tunde Bakare was among them. The late Professor Femi Odokunle, criminologist, was there among the panelists. And what these people highlighted was that as of 2009, Boko Haram was even beginning the insurgent activities. And they said there was need, like some of your guests said, to deal with the radicalization of these people, invest in education, human capital activities, empower the youth, especially in the northern region where we've seen poverty. Look back, 2009 and today, it has festered. We have insurgents. We have now become a hotbed for regional terrorist groups, which led Gabriel for the first time a USS strike on Christmas Day in Sokoto, where it, of course, attacked some base of some of the terrorists.
I see.
So, the good thing about that, people, there was a lot of misinformation, but people felt that the US went ahead of Nigeria. You can't do that without the Nigerian government. So, the interesting thing is that we're seeing cooperation now between the US and Nigeria to tackle terrorism. The interesting thing now, we're seeing the body language of President Tinubu that, look, we're going to go headlong and deal with the terrorists. Because that is the message he gave at the budget speech, 2026 budget speech at the National Assembly. And that's a signal that shows that this year, insecurity will not be given that room. And we expect more actions. President Trump said that working with the Nigerian government, there will be more airstrikes. We just want cooperation. In the tweet of President Trump, I saw that he talked more about, it was just like a more of American approach, but Peter Heck said, Secretary of War said it was a cooperation between Nigeria and US.
I saw the communique, I saw the agreement signed.
Yes. So it's very important that in the communication from the US and the US know that this is a cooperation with Nigeria, because you can't strike a sovereign country without clearance from the home country. But I think, like you said, 2026 will be better than 2025. We expect to see more impactful tackling of insurgency. Now you have Chris Musa as the Minister of Defense, who is hands-on, and of course the change in the security chiefs. They are going to have to work very hard because a secured Nigeria will attract more investment. And you saw that on December 28th, the Finance Minister, Mr. Wale Edun, said to all investors, don't be scared. The strikes were targeting terrorists. Nigeria is still safe for investment. So that's what we want to see happen. Strike these terrorists in their core areas, immobilize them,
Mm.
and ensure that Nigeria is safe for investment.
Nigerian government are aware of this, and it's in the agreement, because when you listen to the Minister of Foreign Affairs,
Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, yes,
he talked about it, said they are aware.
Even the Minister of Information,
exactly.
Mohammed
Even,
Idris.
I think I saw the governor of Sokoto State on, I think it's
the governor of
TVC,
Sokoto, yes, and also
about, said they
former
are
governor
aware.
and senator of the area that was attacked, Senator Tambowa,
Mm.
also said people should not be scared that this is dealing with terrorism.
So hopefully we tend to see more engagement.
And the clear narrative is not just Christian persecution. We're dealing with terrorism to free our country of these insurgents who want to undermine our nation's growth and development.
Let's talk about resilience for Nigerian businesses, renew investment, commitment from Nigerian entrepreneurship.
Yes.
I know I also have talked about it, entrepreneurs, MSMEs.
Yes, you've had some conversations with entrepreneurs.
Financial inclusion and all of that. So what,
I mean,
where are we?
In one of the sessions we had also in economy and politics, and of course you've had sessions with some experts on the MSME, people like Mr. Sheye, Lurutimi, who talked about growing our MSMEs to scale. That's the goal. Every MSME must grow to a large corporation. And if you look at it, the resilience of our entrepreneurs has seen more commitment in terms of domestic investment. One resilient entrepreneur, of course, we've been talking about it throughout last year, is Alhaji Aliko Dangote. What he has done in the oil and gas sector is remarkable. I mean, people would say what they want to say, but this is someone that has been bullish about Nigeria. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery. He just made a commitment to double production from 750,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day in the next 3 years. That is remarkable. I remember he also wrote to NMDPRA, the regulator for downstream and midstream, that they're going to make a commitment of 1.5 billion barrels per month production. I mean, recently, just this December, from December 12th, he ran a promo for the people, his customers. Come and get PMS, gantry price 699 naira, and you can get a 500,000 guarantee. So those are innovations that have come to the downstream petroleum sector market by a domestic investor. Look at also what has happened with this investment. He's now committing to list on the Nigerian capital market this year. So that's going to be a big one. Gabriel, if you have your money, so just watch out. Dangote Petroleum coming to.
I think that NNPC too should be listed.
I agree. We've been talking about this on ProShare.
Yes.
Dr. Tereba has been talking about this, an economist. We need to list the NNPC. That is something that will be on the table. It's very important. And even the Petroleum Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria have also talked about the need for the 4 refineries to be privatized. I think they also need to be evaluated in terms of. What I'm just saying is that Alhaji Aliko Dangote has shown that capacity as a Nigerian entrepreneur to invest and empower the country. Don't forget also last year, he made a commitment to Dangote Foundation for the next 10 years to invest in education to the tune of 1 trillion naira, so 100 billion naira every year. The last time someone significantly did that, years back, was Nkobiola did something like empowering education. And of course, we'll come to another entrepreneur, but that's something significant. Look at what Alhaji Aliko has done in the downstream oil and gas sector and his investments and commitments.
He's planning fertilizer.
Of course, fertilizer will also be listed. It's a solid side production. We're seeing energy security. There were a lot of challenges he had, you remember, with the Pengasa and all that. We've gone through all that phase and all that, even with the regulators. And we know that the new regulators have come on board. The new heads of NMDPRA and NUPRC are going to bring some sanity and stability in the industry. But another person that signed a major deal of commitment to Nigeria is Mr. Tony Elumelu. You always talk about him. He's a business icon. Exactly. $750 million Afrexim deal to domestic crude production. So we're looking out for that too, because that's going to be big investment in the Nigerian economy. And of course, Alhaji Dr. Abdul Samad Rabiu, the Boa Group chairman, just did some significant inking of deals in Dubai. That's last year. That will cover palm oil production, that will cover food production, that will also cover a 20 megawatts gas plant to just boost activity. So these are the kind of business leaders that entrepreneurs are showing that, yes, despite the challenges in Nigeria, we'll continue to invest and boost the economy. And interestingly, these three also have their philanthropy. Boa is into education.
Yeah.
Alhaji Dangote is into education and humanitarian efforts. And of course, Mr. Tony Elumelu, you know, is in entrepreneurship development. So
young people.
these are the kind of things that encourages our economy, and that's why, of course, it's something that we captured and said it's remarkable.
In the place of innovation and transformation in the capital market, you know, so how because I know I can't imagine that we almost covered, if not all, we covered everything
definitely
that pertains to the economy, you know,
in the market,
market this year in our programs. Let's look at the capital market in some innovations and the transformation we've seen in the capital market for 2025, the ISA, you know, regulations and some things put up together to avert what we saw from, what's that thing?
CBEX.
That's CBEX.
2025 was a remarkable year for the capital market, financial market generally. The Investment Securities Act was signed into law, and that marked a new chapter for the capital market, especially the fact that digital assets are now recognized as securities. That's a massive one that should, you had a conversation with Mr. Dr. Lufemi. So that should unlock and bring on board the young population, the very vibrant generation into the markets. So we're expecting to see products come out more this year. But then generally, looking at the ISA, it's really a landmark for the capital markets to enhance innovation and unlock opportunities in the capital market.
Your projection for...
Gabriel, I'm not a prophet, so you have these prophecies for 2026. But these are the key things that we'll look at. It's a pre-election year. So, of course, elections are going to begin with primaries in major parties in the country, according to INEC timetable. We're going to see 2 elections, subnational gubernatorial elections in Osun and Ekiti. That will also show direction of what we expect in 2027. Then, of course, we'll look at the recapitalization of the banking industry, wrapping up by first quarter 2026. How many banks met the target? And of course, the mergers and acquisitions, and those ones that have to be concluded.
Maybe all the gas goes from bank will stop.
Definitely, Then we're going to also look at the very innovative Capital Market Masterplan 2.0 from the Securities Exchange Commission and stakeholders, how that will begin to mainstream the capital markets into the Nigerian economy. It has to be part of the Nigerian economy. And then, of course, what we've been pushing in pro-share advocacy, that it is time for Nigeria to unlock wealth from its assets. Will that happen in 2026? Because, look at the budget 2026. The huge revenue target, we're targeting about 34.3 trillion naira. And then capital expenditure, 26.08 trillion naira. But again, how do we unlock wealth from our assets to support economic activities? That's something that must be critical. So we'll be looking at the Bureau of Public Enterprises and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, how they would drive this. And yes, a very key one is the reforms, the Tax Reform Act, the implementation. What's going to happen? How is it going to be? Everybody has to just be clear
aligned,
and aligned to it. And the security state. In short, for me, the Tinubu administration, 2 things are very critical for this government, from my own perspective. How they manage the security situation and the Tax Reform Act implementation. If they get those 2 right, definitely to be a big boost for the government and, of course, the ruling party. But if they don't get those 2 right, it could be a big challenge, But we hope that they get those right. You want to see stability in the economy. So those are part of those very key developments that we'll look at.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you, Gabriel. I look forward to very interesting more sessions of WebTV Focus this year. The pre-election period, we'll have a lot of conversations, both Economy and Politics Commission and WebTV Focus, because it has to be about the citizens. Politics is too much to be left with politicians. It has impact on the economy. So if we do not engage the leaders to know how they're going to impact the citizens positively, then we have a lot of challenge. Politics has impact on everything, including the economy. So that's what we keep tabs on. Pre-election year 2026.
I will be learning from you.
I'll also be learning from you. WebTV Focus.
Thank you so much.
Gabriel Jude.
All right.
Nice doing this with you.
Thank you so much.
A blissful 2026.
Yes, prosperous indeed. And that will be all for this conversation today on reviewing the key developments in 2025 and expecting more things to happen in 2026 that we are in. I encourage you to log on to ProShare website to check the reports, the outlook for 2026, and also follow our social media platforms to engage further on every conversations we have on WebTV. I am Gabriel Jude. Happy New Year, and bye for now.